This holiday season comes a toy you'll simply die for. Your new best friend is back with his signature stripes and lifelike eyes. This good guy is always ready for some fun. You'll want to keep an eye on him. You never know what trouble he'll get into next. If you lose track of him, don't fret. He'll always find his way back to you. Bring home your friend till the end. 'Cause if you don't...
You're dead. You hear me? Dead.
Disassembly of parts, body and otherwise, may be required. Good Guys is not responsible for maiming, dismemberment, amputation, laceration, strangulation, bodily harm, or death of any kind. Adult supervision recommended.
I've already done a video previously explaining why I never took Chucky or the Child's Play movies all that seriously, and I was never really afraid of the character himself. The concept of a man's soul trapped in a doll is honestly something that could be used for good horror fuel, but this was not it as far as I could see. I think the reason I didn't enjoy it is because, well, Chucky isn't scary, at least not in my opinion. I mean, if a mad, evil slasher is coming after you, that's certainly something to be scared of, but put his soul in a 2-foot-tall child's toy and do the same thing, and he's suddenly a lot less intimidating. I mean, okay, I could drop kick this little turd. I always find it funny that the survivors in this game, like Jill Valentine, David King, Leon Kennedy, and others like them who are infamous for fighting, don't just beat the crap out of this little doll each time he gets close. Oh, but he has a knife. Yeah, and he's the size of a house cat, weighs 5 pounds soaking wet, and has the intimidation factor of a sternly worded reprimand. In a simple phrase, Chucky never scared me. And apparently the directors of his own movies realized that, because after Child's Play 3, they were less real horror movies and more horror comedies, intended to be more funny rather than really scary. I think that's a much smarter way to approach his character, if I'm being honest. As I said before, the concept of having your soul trapped in a doll can be scary. Like as an example, I shudder to think if I was put into like a Barbie doll and played with by some kid who didn't know any better. I've seen what kids do to their toys, and that's a fate I wouldn't wish on any sentient being. I don't think it would push me to actual homicide necessarily, but then again, if I'm in a Barbie doll, what could I do if it actually did? Pout menacingly? But I've exposited enough. Dead by Daylight added Chucky to the game because he's a popular horror icon, and that's all we needed, right? But the question was still raised, how would they approach him? What would they do? Well, first let's get into the lore. The lore of Chucky only covers the first 2 movies of Child's Play. Charles Lee Ray, his real name, is an infamous murderer who was chased into a toy store to escape the cops and realized he was dying from a gunshot. He made a desperate gamble and used a spell to hide his soul in a Chucky doll. However, he has a time limit. He has to put his soul into another living human, and soon, or he'll be stuck as a doll forever. Luckily, he's found a young boy named Andy who he can use quite easily. But unfortunately, Andy and his single mother realize the truth about Chucky quickly and manage to outwit him. But Chucky's not done. He's rebuilt and returns to try once more. He lures Andy into a Chucky doll factory, or Good Guy doll factory, where he attempts the spell one more time. But by that point, it's too late. He's already stuck in the doll's body. Andy and his foster sister manage to bury Chucky under a mountain of Good Guy dolls, and as Chucky fights his way through them, he sees a dark fog beckoning him, promising him revenge and the potential of a new body. Chucky runs into the fog with a rage, and the killer doll is now loose and dead by daylight. Now, the idea of Chucky in DBD is a silly one to me, as I've said, but they made it work, as I find Chucky to be one of the most annoying killers to go against. Even without his power, which we'll get into in a moment, Chucky's the smallest killer in the roster, meaning he can actually go unnoticed rather easily when undetectable, which is easy to do for him. You can actually take advantage of this in looping locations. Also, one of the big questions I asked was, how will he pick up survivors? Well, he summons up the spectral form of Charles Lee Ray to carry both his doll body and the survivor. No, don't ask me how that works, because I don't know. I really don't. Now, some of you might think Chucky's most annoying feature is his power or his size, but it's not. It's that he won't shut the hell up. My God, they gave this guy so many quippy dialogue pieces, it kind of gets irritating, which is why you're not going to see me playing as Chucky. I'd much rather play as his girlfriend. What was her name? Tiffany, that's right, Tiffany, yeah, or Tiff as he calls her. So I play Tiffany because at least, even though she talks a lot too, her lines are actually kind of funny to me, whereas Chucky's just sound like an obnoxious brat trying to sound tough, but regardless. All right, let's move on. Let's go ahead and talk about the power. Chucky's power is Playtime's Over, in which Chucky gets access to the mode called Hidey Ho. Chucky can activate this mode at any time, causing him to move quietly, gain the undetectable status effect, and causes illusionary footfalls to appear around survivors. This mode lasts 14 seconds and has a 10-second cooldown. While in the mode, he gains access to the move Slice and Dice. Slice and Dice increases Chucky's movement speed by 50% for 1.2 seconds, lunging him forward at incredible speed to hit his target and increase his lunge duration by half a second. Chucky will also yell loudly while doing this, giving away his location. Further, if Chucky Slice and Dice runs into a window or drop pallet, Chucky will not be stopped, but instead scamper under the pallet or over the window in an animation that lasts 1.3 seconds and continue his charge. While it's not necessarily a power, another advantage Chucky has is that he is the only killer who doesn't use first-person POV. Due to his side, Chucky has a third-person POV. It allows him to have what many people call Chucky vision, which allows you to see in more unique ways than other killers do, and also give you what many people call Chucky peeking locations, where you stand up next to a corner and you can actually see around that corner despite not facing it, which can fool a lot of survivors. So I do consider it a bonus in Chucky's power. So honestly, if I had to describe Chucky's power in a few words, it is oppressive. Chucky can access his undetectable ability, and because of his already small stature, it makes Chucky that much harder to see coming, especially in maps where there are a lot of walls and blockages for visuals, so Chucky can be very difficult to deal with, especially in the shack loot where his small size makes it hard to see what he's doing in the shack when you're trying to loop him around there. Plus, give him access to his Hidey Ho mode, which makes him undetectable and makes him harder to spot or hear. It just becomes very difficult to avoid Chucky, and he can sneak up on you in the most surprising ways. Then give him that awesome power that he has with the Slice and Dice, that sudden charge and then strike. It is pretty nuts. Chucky can actually be very, very oppressive and very difficult to deal with. So, you know what? Got to give full credit to that. The power was handled very well. Now, as for the perks, Chucky has 3 unique perks like all other characters, all of which are almost game-changing. His perks are Batteries Included, Friends Till the End, and Hex 2 can play. Batteries Included is an exceptional perk for chases near the end game. When you are near a generator that is already completed, you gain a 5% haste status effect. This will linger for 5 seconds even after you leave the effective range of the generator. So imagine a situation where the entire match has gone sour and most generators are done. You could make good use of this to catch up to survivors quickly. I honestly feel this perk is a strong one to help make up for a bad match. And considering it's been a while since I played this game, let alone played a killer match, Batteries Included actually really helped me out as I was playing the game because it really allowed me to keep up with some of the survivors as they kept moving.
You're going down.
Now, Friends Till the End is the perk that almost single-handedly changed the killer meta. It's incredibly strong, and I come across it often when playing. You are obsessed with one survivor. If you hook any survivor other than the obsession, the aura of the obsession is shown to you for 10 seconds, and they suffer the exposed status effect for 20 seconds, allowing you to hone in on them and take them down quickly. However, if you do hook the obsession, one random survivor will scream, giving away their location, and they will become the new obsession. This perk is fantastic for not only finding survivors, but also forcing pressure on the whole team. As you constantly swap between obsessions and who's not the obsession, who's getting exposed and who's not, this forces survivors to get scared, which you want in this game. You want survivors uneasy, fidgety, frightened, because if I'm the obsession, I'm working on a generator and suddenly I notice, oh gosh, I'm exposed and my ore has been revealed, I might want to go hide, I might want to go move or get away from here, which will push me away from the activity I need to be doing, which is what Chucky wants, because he doesn't want me working on any activities that I need to do and wants me running from him so that he can sneak up on me. It's an excellent perk, and there are several killers who can make excellent use out of it. I know I have. And finally, Hex 2 can play. This is the only perk of Chucky's I consider useless for various reasons. So if you get stunned or blinded 2 times, a random dull totem in the trial will become a Hex totem, and then this perk activates. Anytime you are stunned or blinded by a survivor, the survivors responsible will suffer the blindness status effect for 1.5 seconds themselves. So, as someone who hates being blinded, why do I think this is a bad perk? A couple reasons. Firstly, it is not active at the start of the trial. It only activates if you get stunned or blinded twice. This means that it banks on the survivors playing in that capacity, which means you might be bringing along a useless perk. Second, it requires you to be stunned or blinded twice, meaning you gain nothing by trying to avoid a blinding or a stunning. Keep in mind, if a survivor tries to flashlight blind you and you deliberately avoid it, you don't gain access to this perk yet. So it's working against your own instincts just to make this perk work. Third, it's a Hex perk, meaning if the totem is cleansed, you lose the power. True, you can gain it back if the survivors blind you again twice, but that leads into my fourth and biggest problem. Fourth, it's really not worth the trade. The stun duration of this perk on a survivor is a 1.5 seconds thing. Let's consider that a moment. The default blindness duration from a flashlight without add-ons on a killer is 2 seconds. But the maximum duration you can get with the right add-ons can be up to 5 seconds. So let's say we have a survivor with the right add-ons. I'm stunned for 5 seconds. They're stunned for less than 2. Who gets the short end of the proverbial stick? Maybe if this wasn't a Hex perk, or maybe if the duration on survivors was longer, it might not be so bad. But if you ask me, I think it should be an inversion. Keep it a Hex, but make it that after 2 blindings, if a survivor tries to blind you, they get blinded instead of you. Or they suffer the hindered status effect at least. I mean, come on. You actually see me do 2 matches in this video. The first match, I never got stunned or blinded once, so it was just a dead perk in my inventory that didn't get any use. Only in the second match did it get any use, and only once did I see it actually help me out because the survivor who got stunned, or blinded rather, walked into a wall because he was blinded, which really did help me out. So I won't say the perk is 100% useless. It does have its moments, but I feel like the trade that you get in most situations just isn't worth it.
The dolls? Really? Ha!
Plus, once survivors know that you have it, they're probably not going to try to flashlight stun you again until they get the Hex totem cleaned, which I guess is a good thing, but it almost means that you don't get any more use out of the perk, which I would have kind of liked, but maybe I'm having the wrong take here. Trust me, guys, I'm not known for my great takes on Dead by Daylight. It's just my opinion, and I hope you guys understand that. But that is everything having to do with Chucky. And no, Andy and his sister are not survivors in the game, which I think is a mixed opportunity. They could have added Andy or his foster sister as survivors, which I think would have been a really cool idea. But they didn't. It's just Chucky. So that wraps up this chapter of Dead by Daylight. So I guess it's time to move on to the next one, and thank goodness we're finally going into a non-licensed chapter. We're getting original survivors and killers again, thankfully, but this one is honestly very disturbing with some funny history behind it. But before we get into that killer that makes me laugh, let's get into the survivor who honestly makes me ask some questions. That's right, next time we're talking about Sable Ward, but that's for next time in The Fog. Take care.